Hello, I am live and I have some questions that I have received from a Q&A type poll that I put on my Instagram stories. I have a few questions that I've received, so I'm going to be covering those today. Let me read off what questions we're going to be answering. The first one that I got is tips for call. I'm doing call shadow tonight for the first time. I also received a question asking any advice for taking the ARRT. The next one, I am in A&P, Anatomy and Physiology. Do you think I have to remember everything? What classes did you have to take in the sonography program? The last question is, how does it work, the relationship with the radiology doctor? So, we're going to get into all of those, and I have my notes here on my laptop. I don't know why I say it like that, but I do. So, let's tackle the first question about call. I'm going to give you my real advice on taking call. Now, this is part of the ultrasound life for a lot of sonographers. It's not the best thing, but first thing you need to do is know the rules of your facility as far as answering calls and being at the facility to perform the exams. So, do they require you to be at the facility within 30 minutes? Do they require you to be within 45 minutes from the call to when you arrive at the facility? You need to know that and actually do what it says, because somebody can get you in trouble if you do not do exactly what they say. So, always cover your behind. With that, abide by that. Also, whenever you know you have call, don't make any solid plans for that night, for that weekend. If you think, oh, they usually don't call me, right when you get ready to go, right when you think they're gonna, right when your plans are about to start, that's when they call. As soon as you get comfortable doing something, then that's when they call. As soon as you think, oh, I've gone almost the whole 12 hours without them calling, the last 30 minutes, they might call. It has happened to me, unfortunately. Now, once you get there, if you want to make the most out of the money that you're going to be getting from this call, getting call pay is pretty nice. You want to go in, do the exam, and get out. Because sometimes they'll pay you for like hello, Kyla. Sometimes they will pay you for like 2 hours, guaranteed pay. So make it worth your time. Get there, do the exam, write your report, get out. Tell, how are you? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, also, if anyone asks any questions during this during this live, then I might be able to answer some off the cuff, or I'll include that information in a future video. So yeah, make your time worth it. And next, you want to, before you even get to the facility, let me backtrack. When the person calls you, you pick up your phone, make sure you know your schedule, make sure you verify any labs that the patient is supposed to have. Are they supposed to have a quantitative HCG before you perform that particular exam? Are they supposed to have a positive D-dimer before you perform that exam? Make sure, as the person who is calling you, if it's the operator, then ask to be transferred to the patient's nurse or the physician, the ordering physician, and ask what is the what's the priority of this exam? I think that's the word. What is the ordering priority? Because you're only supposed to be called in for stat exams, at least in my experience. I subscribed. Thank you, Kyla. Thank you. A new subscriber. And that probably gets me to 100. But, as soon as you get to one number, it'll go down. So, yes, always make sure you verify the urgency of the exam before, because it has happened to me. People have called saying, "Yeah, we need you to come in for this." And I knew for my facility, I was only supposed to come in for stat exams. And the ordering priority was routine. Why would you call me in on my day off for a routine exam? That could have waited till Monday. Okay, so the next question. Let's see. For as far as anatomy and physiology, do I think you have to remember everything? I would not say you have to remember everything from that class, and we're referring to, I'm guessing, the prerequisite anatomy and physiology, like the biology. I would say not everything, but what you do need to know are perfusion, what arteries and veins perfuse or drain each organ. You need to know that. Definitely need to know that. What is the function of each organ? And also, what parenchyma is, what is the parenchyma like of that organ? For example, with the kidneys, we have renal calyces, there's the renal pelvis, there's um, the medulla, however you pronounce it. I don't know. You need to know those different components of the organ. So keep that in mind. So as far as exactly like what cell transfers this and what enzyme does that, you don't necessarily need to know every single thing when it comes to those things. So that's my answer for that question. Now, the next question is, any advice for taking the ARRT? I am not registered by the ARRT. My knowledge of that exam, unfortunately, is this much. This much. I don't. I barely even know what it stands for, unfortunately. So I do not have much to say about that. But one thing I will say is, when you are looking for job applications, you're looking through job applications, or maybe this is something you should do. Look at job applications. What type of registry are jobs more often looking for? What are they looking for? ARDMS or ARRT? Now, I think the ARRT, if I'm not mistaken, you know what? Let me not say the wrong thing on live. But yes, I did research this a little bit, but I forgot what all I read. So just make sure you know, as far as your job market, what is going to benefit you the most, which exam is going to benefit you the most from taking it. And for some people, that might be the ARRT versus the ARDMS. I have another question. Don't forget, we're going to be talking about dealing with radiologists next in a little bit. So that's going to be an interesting topic. But right now, let's discuss what classes did you have to take in the sonography program. Now, this was about 7, 8 years ago. So I had to scratch my mind, scratch my brain to try to remember. So I had to take an introductory class. Burner, can you save this so I can watch afterward, please? Yes, I will be saving it. I had to take an introduction to sonography class. I also took I had to take abdomen, normal anatomy and physiology. There was a separate class that I took for abdomen pathology, OBGYN, normal anatomy and physiology, OBGYN pathology, and ultrasound physics. That's what I remember. we took an introduction to vascular class. I also remember that. I think we also had like a review class. That's not necessarily all the courses that we took. Now, when you're in the DMS program, your labs, those count as a class. They might count for like 2 or 3 credit hours. Also, your clinicals can count as a class. So it builds up your credit hours, the amount of credit hours you're taking um, for that semester with those types of things. The last question we're going to be answering is, how does it work, the relationship with the radiology doctor? So, my experience dealing with radiologists overall has been pleasant. Most of them have been pretty friendly to me. But here are some step by step things that we can do to make sure that you have a good relationship with them. When you first get a job, or even if you're a student, the first thing you might want to do is go up and introduce yourself to the radiologist. Let them know who you are, maybe what you have experience with, what you're trying to learn, what you're trying to work on, and let them get a feel for how you are as an employee, how you are as a sonographer, how you are as a person. Then you always want to get to know the radiologist's desired imaging style. Does that radiologist only want you to take images in a certain order? If you deviate from that order, are they going to throw an absolute fit? You want to know that stuff up front. Then you want to work within your scope. So our scope is, we are supposed to be describing what we see. That is the extent of our job, really. We are supposed to be describing what we see. So you don't want to take the job of the radiologist and say, oh yeah, this is definitely this. Especially, it depends on the radiologist, how they are, their personality. You don't want to be diagnosing the patient when that's really their job. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later, more of how that is their job. Another thing to keep in mind with radiologists, you want to be humble. Sometimes these radiologists, they'll say, hey, this exam that you did on this patient, I don't like you the way you did this, or I think you should do this more. Can you go back and take some more images? This is a mixture of my experiences and also what I've heard from other people. Some radiologists will call you and tell you you need to go get that patient, bring that patient back to the department and take some more images. I don't think I've personally experienced that, but it's a possibility. You don't want to get defensive. You want to be humble, be open to feedback, and be ready to adjust if needed. And that will make you more valuable to them. Now, another thing with radiologists, they're not always going to be friendly. They're not always going to say everything nicely to you. That is a hard pill for me to swallow. I can be very sensitive sometimes. I'm telling this to you guys as much as I'm telling it to myself. Don't take everything they say or do personally. Now, I also don't want to just limit this to radiologists, because it can be reading physicians. Like right now, as a vascular sonographer, vascular surgeons read my images, not radiologists. So it can be anyone, and if they're having a bad day, unfortunately, they might take it out on you. And if it's just once in a blue moon type thing, just don't even take it personally. Now, if they're consistently just being outright wrong and rude every single time, you might want to speak up professionally. Don't say anything that's going to get you fired, but say things that are within your realm of, okay, this is going to be okay by HR, or even go to HR first and just pose a hypothetical question. If this physician says something to me, how can I respond? So yeah, dealing with physicians can be tricky. Lastly, with radiologists, this I'm going to touch more on this on a different video. This is not something that I realized going in. I thought that radiologists were just all doctors know everything. If they say this is this diagnosis or this characteristic is means this, then that's what it is. They went to school for this. They know this stuff. They don't know everything. They do not know everything. They are humans. They are humans practicing, keyword, practicing medicine. So don't always just take everything everything they say as 100% correct. You want to do your own research sometimes, and sometimes that means you have to advocate for your patient. You need to speak up, like, hey, you said that this was this, or you kind of skipped over this image that these images that I took. Can you look back over those? Or say, I really feel very strongly that this could be something. Can we get some further imaging? You have to, if you really care about your patients, sometimes you really have to voice your opinion very strongly to radiologists, if especially if it's something life threatening for that patient. It's not an easy conversation to have, but if I try to speak to a radiologist about something, usually I will stick to the facts. This appears this way. This patient is presenting with these symptoms. And that's my favorite thing to do when I'm having a conflict with a physician. I stick to the facts. I stick to the facts as much as possible. And that way, they can't really say anything negative about my approach if I'm only voicing facts. So, can't argue with facts, sir or ma'am. Okay. I think that is all the questions that I have. Always, if you guys, I have different resources. Somebody did ask about what can I do to make my application to the DMS program stand out. I do have a what's the word? I do have an article that I wrote about this in the link in my bio. And if you want to, then you can look in my link in bio, check out all the different resources that I have. Some on my website are just articles, just blog posts, and then I have also some resources, including for ultrasound physics, which is a headache for a lot of people. That's why I created some stuff to help. Alrighty. Thank you for coming to this live, everyone. And yeah, hope you guys have a great evening.